Can we just start with your reaction to the Texas abortion law and the response from the Supreme Court?
Absolutely. So the fact that the Supreme Court has effectively this week allowed Texas's heartbeat bill, their heartbeat law banning abortion at 6 weeks to remain in effect, is really the first domino before the fall of Roe v. Wade. So we are thrilled in the pro-life community. I think this is a huge step forward for human rights, and it definitely signals how the Supreme Court is seeing the issue of abortion, and it bodes very well for the decision that they are planning to make next year on Mississippi's 15-week abortion ban.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think that seems to be the big one. With this particular law in Texas, obviously it still has a pretty long fight as far as the court situation goes, where Mississippi is a lot kind of closer to the end here. But it is interesting. I think there is a change in tone from the courts, I think, from really an aggressively anti-life stance. It does seem to be maybe the tide is maybe changing a little bit.
It's absolutely changing. And you saw the dissenting voices on the court, Sotomayor and Breyer and others, who were just infuriated that the 5 justices said, no, we're not going to stop Texas from having this law go into effect. That would probably not, I mean, it's highly likely that would not have happened that way before we got these Trump appointed justices, before we got Gorsuch or Barrett or Kavanaugh, and all of them were the ones to agree to, along with Clarence Thomas, agree to allow Texas's law for now to remain in effect. So it's a huge signal. Again, it's a tremendous victory that today in Texas, over 100 children were spared from abortion because of this unprecedented law, and that the Supreme Court allowed that to happen.
Now, watching the coverage of this puts me in a different mindset, because some of the things that have been said, that have been broadcasted, it's incredible. I find it really hard to believe. Yesterday we went over this piece about the last hours of this Fort Worth clinic, where 67 abortions occurred in 17 hours. They go through like it's an episode of 24. They're racing against the clock to make sure they get all these abortions in before they become illegal. And at one moment, after all of this happens, they write, for a moment, they were able to savor it. They were able to savor the fact that they had aborted all of these kids just in time before the deadline. It brings out, I think, the worst in people, this particular argument. And to see it covered this way in this amazing, like, push to the end, like it's an episode of like home makeover, where they're right before the clock and the person comes home, I mean, is really disgusting.
I mean, in their desperation, I think abortion advocates are really revealing their hand. They're showing the evil of abortion. I mean, you have these abortion clinics, open to the last minute before the law went into effect 2 days ago, saying we're going to be up till midnight, committing abortions, killing children effectively. You have journalists opining on Twitter saying, oh, if more laws like Texas's go into effect, then there will be more children born with Down syndrome. I mean, what are they really saying? They're saying we abort, and they acknowledge that we abort 60 to 80% of all children with Down syndrome. And so, oh, God forbid, there's more children with Down syndrome who get the chance at their first birthday. So you just see these crazy comments coming out from journalists, abortion activists. And I think people are looking at it. Most Americans are not hardcore pro-abortion. Many Americans are pro-life, and they're seeing, wait a minute, this is the agenda all along. The agenda of the abortion industry all along is abortion through all 9 months for any reason, and upping those abortion numbers every single day. Well, most Americans do not stand for that. And that's why I'm so encouraged about not just these laws, but about, I think, really the sentiment in the country, and how I think more and more people are going to become more pro-life.
Yeah, because I do think that it is more than just a legal fight or just a political fight, right? It's about changing people's minds. I mean, we had a situation in this country where interracial marriage was illegal for a really long time. And you can change the laws on something like that, but it's about people realizing, like, well, that opinion was pretty stupid. We should change the way we think. And over time that occurs. The same things happen with something like slavery. I really do think that at some point we look back at this era, and people in the future will look back and think, how could a country possibly agree to this? 60 million abortions. It really is one of the worst things I can possibly imagine a nation doing, and it's happening right in front of our eyes.
I mean, I think you're exactly right. Stu. The death toll to abortion, it is the highest death toll in America. More children are killed by abortion daily in America than heart disease, than COVID, than cancer, than any other cause of death. And, when you look at history, you talk about history, there have been times when good people thought they were doing the right thing by supporting, discrimination, segregation, by thinking that slavery was, part of just the way things were and it's okay, by thinking it's okay, women shouldn't have the right to vote. I mean, normal people who became really desensitized to injustice and thought injustice was normal. That's what's happened today with abortion. We've become so used to killing children in the womb, seeing them as less than human, dehumanizing them. Oh, they're just an embryo, it's just a fetus, it's not a human. The science is clear it is a human. It's been clear for a while, and people are waking up, and now our laws are catching up, and even the Supreme Court is finally showing some of that, I think, intellectual honesty and the reality that it made wrong decisions in the past on abortion, and we have to fix that in the future.
Lila, I'm at the point really with this that I don't even understand the arguments anymore on it. I'm beyond the point where, the people say, well, you're bringing up a straw man argument. And then there's the other side of that's the steel man argument, right? Where like, okay, this is the best argument against your case. And I try to look for those with abortion because, really fundamentally, we're talking about ending a human life. You'd think you'd need a really good argument to be made if you're going to do that. Chris Cuomo tweeted an argument from a law professor from Washington Lee University, and this is their best argument, apparently. If a fetus is a person at 6 weeks, if a fetus is a person at 6 weeks pregnant, is that when the child support starts? Is that when you also can't deport the mother because she's carrying a U.S. citizen? Can I insure a 6-week fetus and collect if I miscarry? Just figuring if we're going there, we should go all in. How do you react to that?
And I actually tweeted back at Chris and I said, I'm all in. Let's go all in, Chris. Are you pro-life now? Yes. If you get someone pregnant, yeah, if there's costs associated with that pregnancy, I think the man should help pay. Yes, I think we should support women who are pregnant and acknowledge there's more than one child there. Let her drive in the carpool lane. I'm pregnant right now, actually, and I think it's fine if I drive in the carpool lane. Yes, but I think those are easier fixes. I think that really was a straw man coming from that pro-abortion law professor, because she's saying, oh, how crazy that we would, financially support or ask men to financially support pregnant women. No, that's not crazy. We should. And we should do it because that's a human life that she's carrying. That's a son or a daughter. And society should be supporting her and that child and not telling her to go to an abortion clinic to kill that child.
Yeah, these are minor things in comparison to keeping people alive. I think one of the reasons why having a child is such a big deal is because of the responsibilities it puts on the parent, right? Like, the argument for abortion in many, many cases is, oh, I just can't do it. Oh, I don't have time for this. I'm too young. I don't have the money. You've heard all of these arguments before. But fundamentally, in the middle of that argument is the idea that a parent is responsible for the life of their child. The reason why it's difficult when you don't have enough money, because you might not be able to provide the life that you think that they should be living. And with abortion, it really does sort of reverse that construct, where it's the parent comes before the child. The parent is now, the child bears the responsibility for the inconvenience of the parent. And that's just fundamentally against humanity. It's against the entire structure of humanity since the beginning.
I mean, you're right. It's an inverse of parental responsibility and an inverse of just human love. I mean, love sacrifices for the other. It doesn't destroy the other for the sake of self. And love is what we're made for as human beings. But, our society doesn't even have that high of a standard, though, because we have safe haven laws where you can literally drop a newborn infant with no penalty, with no questions asked at a fire station, at a hospital, and surrender custody, surrender rights, and not have to care for that infant whatsoever. You can be anonymous to that child the rest of your life if you so choose. So there's no reason for abortion. There are some statistics say 2 million couples in this country who want to adopt infants, but they can't because there's not enough infants to adopt. And people say, well, what about foster care? Foster care system is designed to reunite families. They're not just everyone's up for adoption. There's only a smaller number of those kids even available to be adopted, and they're usually sibling groups, they're older kids. So it's a myth to say that there aren't families that want these children who are scheduled to be aborted. There are millions of families who want to adopt these children, but they can't. So it's also spreading the good message of adoption and saying, if you aren't able to care for this child, we will. There are people who will. Don't give up on life. Don't give up on your child's life.
You're and your organization are very well connected in this area. You've been, your book is all about activism and how to make a positive change in a difficult subject like this. What are you hearing from people as far as this Texas law goes? What do you expect to happen here? As we know that there may be less abortions today and in the future, which will be a great outcome. But do we expect challenges in court? Do we expect a flurry of lawsuits to happen? What's going to go on here?
Yeah, so we do expect challenges in court. And the reason, one of the reasons, the kind of legal genius behind Texas's heartbeat law and the reason that it's gone into law is because it basically makes the enforcement mechanism private citizen. So any private citizen can, if they see or know of an abortion being done by an abortionist, they can sue them, and then it can have just crippling financial charges on that abortionist to get them out of business. So there's no state authority for the pro-abortion side to sue right now, which is why this has really escaped the pro-abortion legal system, and it's in law. Will it get challenged? Likely, because a woman who is seeking an abortion could say, I'm challenging this law, my right to have an abortion is violated here. Even though there's no right to kill your child, that right I don't think exists, but this will likely happen. So the court battle will likely happen. But what's so unique about this is it's gone into effect. The Supreme Court has allowed it to remain in effect at this time. That's unprecedented. And it's also unprecedented, Stu, that in the last 3 years, there has been more pro-life legislation than in decades prior at the state level. Alabama, Georgia, Ohio, so many states passing pro-life laws. So, and then now we have the Supreme Court that seems sympathetic to the right to life. So this combination of factors makes this a huge step forward for the movement in a step that we've never been able to take before.
Okay, and Lila, before you go, I think a lot of people, especially with this topic, have that moment where they had this awakening, right? It's not one of those things that necessarily people slowly come around to, although sometimes they do. Usually at one point, one day, it just hits them. And I think a lot of people have that moment and they don't know what to do with it. They may have been pro-choice in the past. They may have had an abortion themselves in the past, but they've changed their mind and they want to now help stop this process from going on. I know your organization does so much in this area. What's the best way for people to help?
Thank you. Well, I think, the top thing that I've found, besides, of course, supporting mothers and families in need, getting involved in adoption care and foster care, is education. It's amazing. We see minds and hearts open all the time at Live Action because people actually see what the abortion procedure is. They learn about human development. So I would say one campaign you could check out, I highly recommend. It's babyolivia.com. Baby Olivia is the most lifelike, medically accurate animation from the moment of fertilization when life begins until birth. It follows a little girl's life. It's already changing minds on abortion. People are saying, I was going to have an abortion. I chose life now. Now I'm pro-life after watching this video. So I'd say share Baby Olivia's story and help the world see the humanity of the preborn child.
Babyolivia.com is the place to go. Babyolivia.com. Lila Rose, founder and president of Live Action and author of Fighting for Life, Becoming a Force for Change in a Wounded World. Lila, on a very good week here. Thanks so much for coming on the program.
Thanks for having me.